Hello and welcome to Every Movie Ranked, brought to you by the Angry Microwave. I'm Brad, and with me, as always, is Callum. Callum, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. It's such a stupid thing for us to even try and do.
Well, on every show, essentially, what we're going to be doing is, as you just said, Callum, we're going to be debating, arguing, compromising, probably, unfortunately, on a collective, a joint and angry microwave representative of, like you said, every movie ranked. We want to hear what you guys watching think of our list. We will be bringing in vetoes and special shows where we can rearrange some films, but it is interactive. Every week, we are going to take one audience suggestion as well as a guest suggestion of what movies we talk about. We'll be talking about what between 3 and 5 movies on every show, and to try and keep the show as fast paced as possible. Each person gets 60 seconds to uninterrupted to talk about their thoughts on the film and where it should fit in on the list. Pretty straightforward, I feel.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? So, without further ado, shall we talk about the first movie ever ranked by Every Movie Ranked? Mission Impossible Fallout.
Okay, so do you want to go first?
I'll take the reins on this one. So I think this is the epitome, and I think it's actually the peak of action filmmaking. I love the twists in the story. I love the performances. But when you go to a Mission Impossible film, same as when you go to a Bond film, you want good action, you want good hard hitting action, and you just want to be sat there and to have 2.5 hours just go by like that. And that's what happens when you watch this movie. I think the stunts really adds to it. My mum had watched this film before, and we rewatched it a couple of nights ago, and she said that she enjoyed this movie a lot more knowing that all the things that Tom Cruise does, all his near-death experiences, he actually does for real. And I think there's an element of tension that's brought to the table when you know that these one-shot takes or these long action sequences, anything from riding a bike and having a crash to falling off helicopters, he's doing it all for real. And Mission Impossible Fallout is probably the best of the series.
Perfect. Okay, so I completely agree. This was the Mission Impossible film that made me think that I'm more excited for Mission Impossible films than James Bond films. It was that turning point for me where I was like, it's just like the visuals of it. Like, it's one of those films where seeing it in IMAX is unbelievable, but also seeing it at home is equally unbelievable. It's just got that perfect kind of mix. The ensemble cast, I really love like what they've done with it, with like Simon Pegg, and everyone there. It's so perfect, and like Tom Cruise really cares about this film, and it's just in this day and age of like CGI explosions, this just has a realism about it while also being quite aware of what it is, and for that I absolutely love it. Even the villains, like villains starting to like weave in and out, kind of like the Bond films now, and I just absolutely love that there's like this whole little lore coming around it, and we're going to get at least 2 more in the next few years. So yeah, for me, it's a very worthy number 1 spot at the moment.
Yeah, so again, this is the first film on the list, so it's going to go to number 1. But I think it's fitting that we talk about a film that probably isn't going to be number 1 for too much longer on this list, but it is just a great action film. And I agree, I'm more excited for the next Mission Impossible film than what I am the next Bond movie. That's just where I'm at with it. And for me, the fact that it's going to sound like a stupid comment to make, but the fact that you can have so much fun with it. They've got these ridiculous gadgets. There's so many moments are like, oh, as if, but you don't care because it's just popcorn fun. You know, it's sometimes silly, but it's also got grit and it has moments of real tension. And proper story beats that it's not just a throwaway movie. I'm invested in this franchise. As you say, now we've got villains that are kind of weaving in and out, plot twists galore. It's a film that they take seriously, and it's a film that's made with love, and it's a film that I love watching. Okay, so one thing I will say before we move on to Midsommar is that Christopher McQuarrie directed Mission Impossible 6 and 5, and I think they've chopped and changed directors quite a lot, and that kept the franchise fresh. But I do think now they've settled on a great director to move the franchise forward.
Yeah, so on to Midsommar. This will be a bit more interesting film. So I'm going to go first on this one. And
Go ahead.
let's go. So I wasn't the biggest fan of Hereditary, and then Midsommar came along. And I had quite an interesting experience with this. I watched it in peak summer in a cinema with no aircon, which I feel like is how everyone should experience this film. It's yeah, like the visuals are really stunning about this. As a whole film, I'm not sure how it works, but as a piece of art, it's a really interesting thing. Like the music, the kind of like even the length of it all kind of plays into what this film's about. And like I remember so vividly this like certain scenes in this film that I kind of admire it, but I just don't think it's as good a film as Mission Impossible Fallout. So I would go position 2 for this film, but a very well-deserved like position 2, and it's a very different film, and I'm kind of glad that films like this are being made at the moment, because there was a period of time a few years ago when we weren't sure if we were going to see this kind of stuff in cinemas anymore. So yeah, for that reason I would pitch number 2.
Okay, so I admire this movie quite a lot. I wouldn't say I had fun with it because it's not that kind of film, but I enjoyed being in this world that was set up. It felt wholly original, and as you say, we don't get too many films like this. We've opened this film series up with a big blockbuster film series, and obviously we get a lot of those. You don't get too many films that are given the freedom to do what this film did, and I think it took quite a lot of risks. Just pacing alone, it took me about an hour and a half to actually understand what they were going for, because it was just such a slow build, and even when it hits its like crescendo, the end, the high point, thank you, when it hits that, then I think even then it's not exactly like a fast moving vehicle, but it's wholly original. A lot of people I know would put this at number 1 of their all-time list. Some people love this movie, but for me it's not quite as good as Fallout.
Okay, so we're in agreement that is number 2, yeah?
I think so. I think if we hadn't started this list with such a strong opener with Mission Impossible Fallout, which is one of my favorite action movies of all time, this probably would have been number 1, because I did really like this film. And like you say, a few of the scenes, I mean, I won't spoil anything, because I think more people should actually watch this movie, because it is so original. But some of the scenes on the cliff, for example, just are still like ingrained in my mind. And I watched this movie like a year ago. So for me, yeah, I think it belongs at number 2, but it's a strong number 2. Okay, so Ready Player One is the third film we're talking about on every movie's ranked. I'll take the lead on this one purely because I think we have differing opinions. Okay, my time started. So I don't really like this movie. I like frames of this movie, and I like certain action sequences of this movie, but for me, what I enjoyed about watching it and why I don't really care about going back to watch it a second time is that it was more of a, I know that character in the background. So I was like, Mechagodzilla, that's pretty cool. I was like, there's the I don't know why I said the what do you call it, the DeLorean from bloody Back to the Future. I hate that movie. Anyway, we'll talk about it another time. But for me, that's what this film is. It's like Easter egg of the movie. I don't particularly find the story gripping. I don't particularly find the story memorable. I couldn't really tell you what it was about. No, saw it again recently. But visually it's engaging. It's not a bad film. It just didn't hit me in the right ways. And so for that reason, I would put it number 3 on the list that we have so far.
Okay, so I've got a really weird relationship with this film. So the first time I saw it was in a giant IMAX screen in Southampton, which is where I went to uni, and I was quite nostalgic for that whole thing. It was just the perfect thing of being in a cinema that I'd been to like for 3 years constantly, hadn't been back there for a few years. Seeing it on a giant screen is the way to see this film. And then I watched it at home and it just wasn't the same. But then, lucky enough, because of the pandemic, it was re-released in the summer into the IMAX down the road. So I saw it there and I fell back in love with it. So it's a really hard film because when it's in a cinema, for me, it's like a 5-star movie. But when I watch it at home, it's like a 3.5, and I don't really know why that is exactly. Maybe it's like the spectacle. So it's really hard. Like, I think I'm gonna have to go number 3 because this is it's a kind of compromise for me because I go through stages absolutely loving this film, like a 5-star film, and then there's other times where I'm just like, this film had so much more potential.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is that if you'd watched this for the first time and only time, then maybe you'd be fighting me on where this should fit on the list. Even though I'm going to backtrack a little bit though, because even though I said that I wouldn't watch this film again, maybe it's just because of the year we've just had. But if I was to watch either this or Midsommar for a second time, I would probably choose it. But I don't think it's because it's the better film. I think it's because it's the easier film to take in. You know, it's not heavy, it's not slow, it's visually engaging. But for me, I do think it's one of the worst Steven Spielberg movies, in that I don't think he's made much in the way of tripe, really. And I wouldn't say this is tripe. I mean, he's the best filmmaker of all time, isn't he? So I'm not going to sit here and say, he's made utter rubbish. But if we were ranking all of Spielberg's movies, for example, this would be near the bottom for me. And I guess for that reason, just thinking about future films that we're going to put on this list, it can't be up there. And it's not above Midsommar just in terms of quality of film, I don't think.
Yeah, like I think I remember more about Midsommar than I do Ready Player One, and like it's that really weird kind of complex issue that we're gonna have in this. Is I think I'd rather go and watch Ready Player One again, but I think Midsommar is the better crafted film. And with Spielberg directing it, it's like Spielberg can achieve the visual style, but this just didn't have the human connection that other Spielberg films kind of had. And maybe that was the casting for me. I think Simon Pegg was great in it, but and to be fair, Ben Mendelsohn plays a great villain. I'm a big fan of Ben Mendelsohn.
But when doesn't he play a great villain? Like, he makes everything he's in, he makes 10 times better. I think he's great.
But like in terms of like the lead cast, I just didn't really connect with them at all. And like I don't know whether that's just Ty Sheridan, just not seeing him in many things, but it was just missing that human connection, which I feel like this film needed. Like, bearing in mind that was the whole message of the film, is that basically like we're better than technology in terms of like our connections. It just didn't really have that for me, which is a shame because I feel like it could have been a modern masterpiece, this film, if the casting was just tweaked very slightly for me. Okay. It will be really interesting to see whether we'll get a Ready Player 2 sequel film, because I'm not sure how much money this made, but like it seems to be one of those films that just came out and it's been forgotten about like near enough instantly.
Yeah,
like I don't hear this film in any conversations at all. Like not even Spielberg conversations. I don't hear this film being brought up.
It only came out 2 and a bit, 3 years ago. And again, I think it's almost like an Avatar situation where people were maybe divided by that at the time, but considering how much some people did love it, you'd expect it to appear in conversation a little bit more than what it is now. But I think if we put it in number 3, I'm excited to debate you on the next movie. I think we're going to have a falling out about that one. But I think 3 is fair. I think Midsommar is just a more memorable film than Ready Player One.
Okay, let's go and take a look at the list then. So, happy Death Day.
Who wants to take the lead on this one?
You take the lead because I'm really intrigued to hear your opinion.
Okay. I adore this movie. I think this movie is great. I have so much fun. Now, I know what you're going to say. It's a premise that we've seen before, and it's a premise that it has been, excused upon, done to death. We've seen good versions of this plot device. We've seen bad versions of this plot device. I think Marlon Wayans has got one on Netflix where he's naked and he wakes up naked every day and he must run through the street or whatever. I don't know. I've seen that. Don't remember it too much. But this movie just stays with me. I think it's fun. I think it's funny. I think it knows exactly what it is, and I think this is exactly what Blumhouse does incredibly well. They're self-aware, but not to the point of being ironic. They know exactly what they're going for. It's a bag of fun. The lead, I think she's great, and I love the sequel, but we're not talking about the sequel. I absolutely love this movie.
Okay, so I actually quite enjoy this film.
Thank God.
I think it's I mean, this hasn't really made for a very interesting episode so far, but I kind of love the simplicity and how it just plays on the formula. I mean, I'm sure that we'll go and rank Scream one day, but it's kind of like Scream where kind of like, you know what you're getting, and it just has fun with itself. Yeah. And I feel like this is, it's very much in the same vein as Scream in how they do that. The casting's great, like the horror's great, like it's shot well, like it's not outstanding, but it's just done so well. And I feel like you said, like this is what Blumhouse is here to do. It's here to create kind of like fresh kind of horror movies that don't reinvent the genre, but they have fun with it, and they're quite self-aware. So for me, I think I would stick it just below Mission Impossible Fallout is where I would kind of pitch it at, because I think it's it's quite hard to compare it to Midsommar, but I think it's just has more fun with itself, and it's a more fun movie to experience.
Okay, now I find that fascinating because I thought I'd have to argue with you to put this above Ready Player One, but now you said above Midsommar, I'm actually going to have a real tough time with this, because I do think Midsommar is a wholly original, great concept, great execution. Just everything about it is a good movie. But I just have so much fun with Happy Death Day, and it's not horror, it's a slasher. And when it comes to slasher films, you know, something like this, if you can have fun with a slasher film, it's what you need to go for. Same as like the original Halloween. Like, it's creepy and it's scary, sure, but they had fun with the slasher element, and that's exactly what you need to go for. And so I'm actually really happy that you've suggested putting it below Mission Impossible, because I'm happy to shove that in there if you're happy to put it number 2.
Yeah, I just honestly think it's one of those films that has just fun with the genre, and I really respect that, because it like many films these days try and play it safe, but this, honestly, it was just so well done.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm happy with that takeaway. Okay, let's do it.
Now on to our final film. I wonder where this will go. I'll kick off on this one, I think.
Okay, you kick off.
So, Hubie Halloween. Adam Sandler, what are you doing? Literally, going from Uncut Gems to this is ridiculous. I love Halloween. I also don't... I'm kind of partial to an Adam Sandler comedy when it's done right. I'm not going to lie. I don't think Grown Ups is the worst film to ever exist. But this just is so lazy. And, like, the cast was there. Like, you had Steve Buscemi, the person from Modern Family, the kid from Stranger Things. Like, the cast was there. And even the marketing and visual style. I feel like this Adam Sandler film had, like, a grace period from everybody on Twitter, it seems, where they were like, yeah, this trailer looks pretty good. I'm going to give it a shot for a little bit of seasonal fun. And then we all watched it, and it just wasn't smart or clever. His accent, his accent is offensive, but I don't know why. It's just so weird. I think this is a very safe bottom of our list kind of film, to be totally honest. It's just not good at all.
Okay. So, a little peek behind the curtain for you guys. Now, I've already added it to number 5 on the list. So the list is already done. Again, like the performance and his, you know, what he's portraying, for me, it feels like it's insulting. But again, I don't know who it's insulting to. I feel like it's insulting to me as a viewer. I wouldn't go as far as to say that Adam Sandler doesn't care about the projects that he does, because look at what he did with Uncut Gems. Like, one of the best performances he's ever made. The fact that I watched these two films back to back is absolutely mind-blowing to me. I don't know if it's anything to do with his Netflix deal. We'll talk about the positives. Again, like, there's clearly money behind it. The promotional material, I think the film looked good when we were seeing trailers. But I'm just trying to sound like I'm just trying to fill time. It's shit, isn't it? It's not. It's not great. But it's got a great cast. It's got great cameos. So clearly people saw something in there. But there's something in the execution where it just doesn't feel. It doesn't feel authentic to me. It doesn't feel like the laughs. For me, the funniest thing about this film is where they'll have a pause in dialogue where they expect people to be laughing at home, but no one's laughing at home.
But it's not even bad enough to laugh at, though. This is the problem. It's just like straight of the road. Like, I was really hoping this film was going to be like, I absolutely adore the film called Trick or Treat, which is kind of like it kind of has fun with kind of like Halloween, kind of celebrates it. I thought this would be that film, but it just really isn't. Like, the whole like Steve Buscemi plot line feels so forced as well. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so it's so dull. But I don't understand because Adam Sandler's clearly putting in a lot of favors from Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi does not need to be in this film. Like, and I just don't
But
understand
the film
why.
opens with Ben Stiller.
Yeah,
Like,
like
and
why?
for me, I was like, oh, here we go. But even his cameo, it just felt like I don't know, there's something off about this film. I don't know whether they shot it in a short space of time, whether it felt like they were shooting a first draft of a film. I do think there's something in here to be, you know, that could have been turned into something good. They just didn't execute it correctly. But I also don't know if it's because people are starting to get tired of this Adam Sandler shtick because it's not original anymore. He's played this character many, many times, and I don't know the last time someone actually enjoyed it. And again, I think he's a great actor. The Uncut Gems is one of the best performances I've seen in the last half a decade. I think it's phenomenal. Um,
He can even do comedy. The problem is he can't. The problem is like he can do comedy, like as we look in his earlier career. But like maybe it's just oversaturation. Like back in the '90s, people used to get an Adam Sandler film every 2 years, maybe. Rather
yeah.
than at the moment, everyone's getting like 3 Adam Sandler productions a year on Netflix, which is way too much. When
Yeah.
it just seems to be just turning out whatever this is.
And what this is number 5 on our list, essentially. I'm curious to see how long it stays at the bottom of our ranking every movies of all time ever list. But it's not moving up anytime soon. Um,
So should we go and take a look and have a little talk about the list so far?
let's do it. Let's take a look at what the list is showing us.
So at number 1, we've got Mission Impossible Fallout. At number 2, Happy Death Day. At number 3, Midsommar. At number 4, Ready Player One. At number 5, Hubie Halloween. I'm really intrigued to see how this list kind of plays out, to be totally honest, because I feel like 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all pretty solid films. So it's going to be interesting to see how we kind of fit those in, and if we can see any film that's worse than Hubie Halloween.
I feel like the list is going to sort itself out. Obviously, this is a bit of a bumper first episode, just so we can get some films on the board. I think there is a vast. I know you said 1 to 4 are good quality films. I think there's a massive golfing class though between Mission Impossible and a Ready Player One. As much as I love Happy Death Day, it is one of my favorite slashes of all time. I don't even care. Don't at me. Feel free to at me. We can do the publicity. But I just feel like there's a massive gulf between Mission Impossible and Ready Player One. So there's plenty of scope there for films to come in and out. But what we want to know is what do you guys think of the first 5 lists, the first 5 films on the list? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? I do think we're going to have some contention when we have guests on, which we're going to do, I think, every Friday. We're going to have guests on the show, and we're going to give them the power to move one film up or down one place on the list. And I'm curious to see how long it takes someone to move Midsommar up. I feel like we're going to upset a lot of people with Happy Death Day. But overall, I think I'm happy with how the list is looking at the moment. But it's going to be chaos when we start arguing with guests and and viewers.
But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see how wrong we are. But yeah, that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Yeah,
Indeed. And let's not forget that, as I said at the top of the show, this isn't just a list from me and Callum. We're going to have guests on, but we also want to hear the thoughts of you guys. And also, please recommend a film for us to put on the list. Now, your Dark Knights and your End Games, we're going to save for, I think, when we hit a particular milestone. But please do recommend films that you want to see, even if they're films that not many people have seen. We're using this as a tool to actually expand on our library of films that we've seen. So please do get in touch. We've got another show coming out very soon, so be sure to check that out. Another edition of this show. Christ, we're not going to spread ourselves that thinly. But I've been Brad, this has been Callum, and this has been Every Movie Ranked. Goodbye.